And I've told you over and over, do what you want, of course, over and over and over again. Emotions are evil. You are made to believe within yourself and outside of yourself, inside of others, that emotions are good. And they have convinced men that they should be emotional too, because before men were not emotional. So you can really use society in the way that you can now, because they have convinced most men that emotions are good. Speaking of emotion, I want to give you an example of what emotions will do to you. So some of you may have heard of this story over in Canada. There are some churches, I guess over the last 2 years or so, that's been burned down. And it appears that it will due to false accusations. Some say that the Catholic Church, at one time, apparently, the Catholic Church used to do a lot of homeschooling, and they would teach the Indians in these classrooms in their homes and things like that. And so, according to the story, I don't understand it all the way, so I'm kind of putting pieces together as to what I've heard about it, read about it. But apparently, they found kids or somebody went out and they had these little radar things, and they thought they found dead bodies under some of the Catholic Church buildings and things like that, or homes, and as a result, all hell broke loose. And come to find out later, it might not be true. It doesn't appear to be true, because they dug looking for some dead bodies, and they found none. But you're emotional about it. Just behind the story, this is from the New York Post. In May 2021, the leaders of the First Nation announced the discovery of a mass grave at a school in British Columbia, operated from the 1800s through the end of the 20th century. Watch this from City News, CBC News, and the New York Times. Watch this.
A developing story out of British Columbia. A First Nation says the remains of more than 200 children have been located.
What we've heard is that they say a survey of the grounds of the former Kamloops Indian residential school site, which you see there on your screen, the survey has uncovered the remains of 215 children buried there. They say this in this media release, telling us that they hired a specialist in ground-penetrating radar who carried out this survey of the site.
Ground-penetrating radar specialist Sarah Beaulier has used the technology to survey indigenous and municipal cemeteries. She says her survey found 200 anomalies in just 2 acres of land. Beaulier says those anomalies have characteristics consistent with children's graves. But Beaulier emphasized radar can't conclusively determine who's in those anomalies or confirm that they're graves. Only excavation or digging up the sites can accomplish that.
There's nothing on the surface, but once we interpret the data, we can see if we can find these children.
Well, Asha, these are really relived trauma for the survivors that are in the room. And it's really heart-wrenching. These were institutions of assimilation and genocide. That's what they were. And now we have the proof. It has given us undisputable truth that genocide has happened.
The residential schools was built to beat our language, culture, and traditions out of us.
For more than a century, Indigenous children in Canada were taken from their homes and sent to residential schools to forcibly assimilate them into white society. And thousands were never seen again.
And those crimes have to be further investigated. And those crimes have to be punished.
A 24-hour National Indian Residential School Crisis Line continues to remain open to support residential school survivors and others affected.
Amazing, huh? I want you to pay close attention to this story, because you just saw their reaction to it, mostly women, but their reaction to it, overreaction, talking about a trauma. They've been traumatized, just a rehashing of the trauma. You saw that, right? And some dumb female talking about she did some survey. This is why women should be doing men work. She did some type of survey, and now all this mess. You see the reaction? All emotional, on the news, everywhere. Doesn't this remind you of the so-called civil rights movement? Everybody and their mama traumatized except baby Jessica's daddy. What emotions will do to you? Well, right after this thing was announced, the prime minister had a hissy fit, overreacting. He ready to give out money and all kinds of stuff to repair the trauma. What trauma? Based on information that don't seem to be true. The New York Post has reported within days of the announcement, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau decreed that all flags in federal buildings, on federal buildings, fly at half staff. The Canadian government pledged $320 million to fund more research for Pope Francis. To fund more research. And Pope Francis issued a formal apology on behalf of the Catholic Church. Watch this from WION, CBS, and ABC.
In a bid to make amends, the Prime Minister paid a visit to the indigenous community in Kamloops, British Columbia, the place where 215 unmarked graves of children were discovered back in May.
Canada has begun to face the reality of the truth of this country. That we allowed kids to be taken from their language and culture, neglected and abused.
30th September 2021 marked the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in Canada.
Pope Francis today issued a long-awaited apology to Canada's Indigenous people for decades of cultural genocide.
Pope Francis clasping his hands in silent prayer. Moments later, the Pope apologizing in a powwow circle on Aboriginal land.
I've come to your native lands to tell you in person that I am pained and to beg God for forgiveness, the Pope. I'm here to remember the past and to cry with you, Francis said, before receiving a high honor, usually reserved only for chiefs. A church that once sought to suppress a culture, now humbled by it instead.
The pain they've endured for generations won't be moved by only words.
Wow. You see, the whole overreaction to something that they don't even know if it's true. And even if it was true, it would not have required that kind of reaction to it. All those people carrying on like that, it's just all ego. They feel good over something that is not even true, it appears. Is this just another way to go after the white man and get money and blame and feel like a victim? You see that overreaction to it, right? They don't know if it's true or not. But that stupid Indian lady, the other one talking about, it's a reminder of a trauma. Giving out $320 million. Pope Francis apologizing to God. All emotions. Emotions are not good, folks. The enemy of God want you emotional. That's the abnormal state of being, and you will be destroyed in your emotional condition. There are no answers in emotions. No freedom, no peace. The Revolver is reporting that for 2 years, Christian churches in Canada have been set ablaze. The reason, a story pushed by left-wing activists and the media claiming that scores of indigenous children were buried on the land where these places of worship sat. Watch this from Fox and Global News.
It's not getting a lot of attention in this country because we don't give Canada any attention at all, but all of a sudden Canada looks a lot like the Soviet Union. Seem like we're exaggerating a little bit? Well, they're burning Catholic and Anglican churches in recent days. Leftist groups are. But Canada's leaders aren't condemning the burning of churches. No, they're endorsing the burning of churches. The head of the British Columbia Civil Liberties Association, a monster called Harsha Walia, tweeted this, quote, "Burn it all down." Then a close confidant of the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, a man called Gerald Butts, called the arson, and we're quoting now, understandable. A woman called Heidi Matthews, meanwhile, of Harvard Law School, described the attacks as, quote, the right of resistance to systemic injustice. Burning churches, and not just churches. Rioters just tore down the statue of Queen Victoria in Winnipeg on Canada Day.
No pride in genocide!
But what do you call it when literally dozens of churches are being systematically vandalized, torched, and you often have, in one case, white Antifa-style vandals filming themselves desecrating a church? And the trouble is, from the very top, it's either silence or tacit support.
This is nothing but going after white people and Christianity. This is just all evil. It's evil. And it's amazing to me. I was thinking over the weekend, it's amazing to me, as I am now, how these evil people can cause so much physical damage. They cause so much physical damage, and they get the support of the government. White people, this is going after you and Christianity. Wipe out white people, it's over for Christianity. Let's say that it was true about the so-called dead bodies under the churches, right? What good will it do to burn down the churches? It's not going to bring the bodies back. It's just more fighting over nothing to make yourself feel better. So I showed you how this stupid lady went out and took the little heat wave thing, according to the report, and claimed she found all these bodies buried under the Catholic churches or schools or whatever of the Indians. And now the Indians carried on, emotional trauma. Over nothing. Think about that. An illusion. An illusion. How many times have you overreacted to an illusion? Amazing, huh? Your action, your life is the same way. It's the same spirit. There's no difference in all that mess I just shown you and what's happening in your life. Well, lo and behold, as though I'm not surprised or surprised. Well, according to the New York Post and Revolver, they're reporting, now we know the entire 2-year saga was a massive hoax, thanks to 2 major excavations that found no evidence of buried children. But that little heifer said there was over 200 she done found, allegedly. But they went under and dug under there, and they found no evidence of buried children. The truth is that left-wing animal torched at least 81 Christian churches, all based on a media lie. All based on a lie. We get lies in the media every day now, and you're overreacting to them because you're not in control. And Christianity is the #1 religion in the world. It's the best. It's the only religion that says you must forgive. You got to admit you're wrong for being angry. In order to return to the Father, you must forgive. Go and forgive before you enter into the kingdom, and I will forgive you. The white man pushing that, the Christian white man, and the enemy hate it. The enemy does not want you to enter into the kingdom of love, the nature, the identity of God, because it will have to depart from you. Your battle is not with anyone else. Yes, there are people who have their own battles, but they try to take it out on you to make you be a part of their battle. But their battle is only with them too. It starts with you and it ends with you. All of your issues and all of your problems is with you, not anyone else on this side of heaven. And as long as you blame someone else for it, no matter what they try to do to you, as long as you blame them, you would never overcome the battle that's inside of you. If you want to overcome the battle of the world, meaning other people, you got to overcome the battle within yourself. There is a war going on in you, and you don't know it. And the war is a spiritual war. The same war that the government is inflicted upon each other in different parts of the world, it's the same war you're dealing with and inflicting upon others in your world. You're at war with other people in your little world, in your environment. You're at war with your family, husband and wife, so-called friends, co-workers, near and far. It's the same thing, but you could be free. You have paradise right here on earth. I want to show you an example of what hell looked like. It's just one small example of what hell looked like, but to this person, I'm sure it's a big example of what hell looked like. More and more drama of hell. And it's all around us now. It's everywhere. It's in the air. It's everywhere. It's in your bone. Here's an example of what hell looked like and not heaven. This is from X. A girlfriend deleted her boyfriend's NBA 2K account. It's a video game. Because she wasn't getting enough attention from him. This is how this 2K thing is how he make a living. And she deleted it, according to this report. Watch this from X.
I'm done with you. I'm done.
No, seriously?
I'm done.
You're that
seriously? I'm done. I agree, done. Do you know how long I'm You don't understand. You don't understand. You always take this as though it's not funny. Stop touching my shit.
That woman, while she's standing there watching him scream and yell and go through it like that, and she's like, what's your deal? She is loving it. She is loving it and giving her, in her imagination, pure joy to inflict pain on him like that. And that's what happened with every human being that try to inflict pain on others. They feel the same way when they think that they can hurt you. That's why they do it. They need a false sense of life. And so they're not happy with it themselves. They're miserable. They're dead and they know it spiritually. And so they go out roaming the earth to see who they can hurt. They turn on their own family members, friends or whatever, so they can feel alive. Him carrying on like that, she was loving it. It's just like in relationship with boyfriend, girlfriend, her husband and wife, when they fight one another and the other can get the other one to overreact, you're giving them life. They love it. They can go and have a good night's sleep now because you're suffering. And then this guy made the NBA 2K so important to him that he overreacted to it too. And she knew how important it was to him. That's why she went and did it. Because she knew she was going to get a reaction from him. She's going to control him one way or another, and she did. It's evil. It's all evil. That's what's happening in you, and you do it to others. There was a caller last week who said, 18-year-old male, that his mother, when he went and forgave his mother, she had a hissy fit. And he was going to move, and she went and snatched the license plate off his car to keep him in there so she can inflict hell on him. And he had to call the police on his mama, 18 years old. It's the same thing that made a home in you. You're not you. It's not you, those thoughts that make you shake and scared and overreact and freak out and bring out all this pain. That's the hell in you. You became like your mama. It was passed down to mama. And it repeats itself each generation. And in your mind, you keep thinking that the answer is in the mind. If I did it this way, if I did it that way, it'll be better. It's never going to get better. If you thought that was evil, the New York Post is reporting a Florida mother, they say mom. Everybody say mom. Mom sounds so special. Did you know when I was growing up, it was called mother? Not mom. Mom just sounds so loving and warm and fuzzy. When mother used to be fine, and daddy. This is from the New York Post. In Florida, mom. I say mother, but they say mom. Says she fatally choked 13-year-old son. According to the court records, Jasmine Kennedy called herself Yahweh. Who is Yahweh?
I think it's a term for God.
Called herself Yahweh and allegedly told deputies that she spared her son from the devil. So the devil is spared her son from the devil by, according to this report, choking him. Watch this from Fox.
Osceola County, a child found dead this morning in St. Cloud.
The sheriff gave an update a little more than an hour ago on the case.
The Osceola County sheriff says this mother killed her teenage son, and now investigators are trying to figure out why. Take a look at this crime scene. Deputies say they were dispatched to Crossley Avenue in St. Cloud at around 7:30 this morning and discovered the 13-year-old boy laying face up in bed, dead. They say 37-year-old Jasmine Kennedy, the mother of the teenager, told them she choked her son. Listen to what Sheriff Marcos Lopez had to say.
She basically is admitting to doing it. And, like I said, those are some of the things that we're going to work out now. And we're still interviewing her, and this investigation unfolds.
Kennedy will be charged with domestic battery by strangulation, as well as child neglect and aggravated abuse.
Amazing. Yahweh told her to do it. Is it Yahweh? Yahweh told her to do it. So just think about that. The devil told her to do it. If the story is true, the devil told her to do it, but he told her, this is God telling you to do it. It's the same devil that's telling you to go down to the front of the church and accept Jesus. And now you know Jesus. And then for the rest of your life, until you wake up to it, and most people don't, they think they hear from Jesus. I heard this voice in my head, and that voice in my head told me to go feed the hunger. That voice and that voice was Jesus. And yet you're miserable. That's the same voice that told this person to choke her son. Fatally. All in the name of Jesus. And if you think that's bad, this is from Court TV. Court-TV. A Florida man is facing a list of charges after allegedly injecting chemicals into his neighbor's apartment. Watch this from Inside Edition.
Watching what cops say is a terrible crime committed by a brilliant chemist. First, he's seen filling a syringe with some sort of substance. Then he places the syringe under an apartment door. Umar Abdullah and his wife had just had a baby. Almost immediately, they say, their downstairs neighbor, then a PhD student in chemistry, began complaining about noise. That's him skulking outside the apartment in Tampa.
After my daughter was born, right after we came back from hospital, he started complaining.
Then the family began smelling chemicals pervading the apartment. Everyone, including the baby, started getting sick.
She used to cough and subsequently she used to vomit.
Air conditioning ducts were cleaned, plumbers checked all the pipes leading to the apartment, and the landlord even replaced the water heater. But the noxious fumes became overwhelming, and that's when the new dad decided to install a hidden camera. At first, the surveillance video caught just a glimpse of the suspect.
The next day, when the camera was repositioned, this happened, and the terrifying truth came out. Initial toxicology reports from police say the substance being pumped into their apartment consists of 2 strong opioids, methadone and hydrocodone. The suspect is identified as Shu-Ming Lee, who got his PhD in chemistry at the University of South Florida. A promising future ahead of him, now in jeopardy for one incredibly foolish act.
Amazing. See, the more PhDs you get, the dumber you become. Evil. Isn't that amazing? He's like, y'all gonna make this baby shut up or else. Oh, you gonna make the baby shut up. What the? So the same devil that told that man to go do that, allegedly do that, it's the same devil that told this woman to choke her baby and say that Yahweh said it. It's the same thing. Yeshua or whoever said it. It's the same spirit. The same spirit that made these people do this, it's the same spirit that caused fear inside of you. Jealousy and envy and strife and worrying and anger. It's the same spirit. Our battle is a spiritual battle. Either you overcome that spirit or you live in it, and it will destroy you. And make you try to destroy others. I was looking at how there are illegal aliens coming in from all around the country. I mean, around the world. And they're coming from, they're like China and Africa and Mexico and everywhere. And they're coming in and they're bringing crime and diseases and drugs and everything in. And it's been talked about on the news, some of the news, most of the liberal press is not reporting it, but on the news, it's been talked about what's happening, and nobody's stopping it. It's just getting worse. It's not being stopped at all. And these people are coming in, and they're committing crimes and all other kind of stuff. And no one doing anything about it. Isn't that amazing? Drugs are coming in, and the government that works for us, we pay them to work for us, are working against us. They are more invested in Ukraine and zero investment in this country. Did you ever imagine this? And you got all the wrong, insane people running our country. And that's why I said all the wrong people are in the right places to make sure our country never return. I want my country back, but I don't see the country coming back. How will you deal with all this? How will you handle no bail bond? Don't punish the criminals, punish the innocent people. You don't have a right to protect yourself. And then they have women all over the place running everything. You know it's not going to return because they're emotional. It's not in their nature to lead. It's in their nature to follow. And they're all over the place. It's not like it's an unusual thing. They want this to be happening. They are setting it up where it can happen. Defund the police. No police around now. And if the police should be around and intervene, the officer get punished, not the criminal. We need the border wall back up. We need Netanyahu, the president of Israel, to come and run our country until we can get Donald Trump back in there. Benjamin is needed until we get the great white hope Donald Trump back. The president of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's not going to put up with that. I know I've been told he's the prime minister, but I think it's the same thing as the president, just a different name. Thank you. Oh, it's not the same thing as the president? What the? Prime minister. Mr. Prime Minister President Benjamin Netanyahu. He's not going to put up with that in Israel. Where they have illegal aliens over there in Israel who are coming from, according to report, from Africa and places like that. And they're starting the same mess over there that the illegal aliens and others are doing here in our country. Benjamin Netanyahu, nope, it ain't going to happen here in Israel. This is the Lord's place. PBS has reported Benjamin Netanyahu says Sunday he wants Eritreans, migrants, involved in a violent clash in Tel Aviv to be deported immediately and has ordered a plan to remove all of the country's African migrants. Watch this from BBC.
In Israel, where more than 100 people, including around 30 police officers, have been injured in clashes between Israeli security forces and Eritrean asylum seekers in Tel Aviv. Some are in a serious condition. Police said they fired live rounds in the air, as well as deploying stun grenades, tear gas and sponge-tipped bullets to disperse supporters and opponents of the Eritrean government. Anti-government protesters had earlier broken through security barriers at the Eritrean embassy to stop an event that they had earlier asked the Israeli authorities to cancel.
There were attempts to break through police barricades. The Israeli police then ended up using all of these different riot control methods, as they described them, to try to push people back. But you could see as well from some of the videos that have been shared on social media that there were actually also street fights going on, not just with the police, but also involving asylum seekers who are against the Eritrean regime and those who are in favor of it. And that has been something that we've seen in the past, not on this scale. In the south of Tel Aviv, there has been previous violence between the two sides. Some of their shops have been smashed up, some privately owned cars have been smashed up in all the trouble that there's been. And I think it does really threaten to increase the tensions that there are between asylum seekers and other residents in Tel Aviv.
Just think about this. These people are coming from S-hole countries around the world, S-hole countries, and they're bringing their mess into this country and Israel, the Western world. Can you believe that? That's what they do over there to third world countries. That's why they say they're running away from that and want to come to countries where they don't have to live that way, but they're bringing the same thing with them. It's like the illegal aliens who are coming in from Mexico and other places. They come in and they turn the areas into Mexico. You go downtown Los Angeles, once you cross a certain street, it's like you landed in Mexico. It looked like Mexico. Remember the Great White Hope said these people coming from S-hole countries. And this is what the government want. They want all this mess in order to control you. It's about perceived power and wealth. It's not about you. It's not about the people that they're allowing into this country. It's about perceived power and wealth. The ego is always about itself. It's never, ever, ever, ever about anyone else. It's always about itself. I've heard horror stories over the last 30-something years now, 33, 34, whatever, many years. The ego is evil. Human nature is evil. The next time someone tells you that human beings are good, they are evil for even saying that. They're lying to you. According to the Times of Israel, the war going up. The war going up. Benjamin Netanyahu floated the idea of building a fence along the entire borders with Jordan to prevent infiltration into the country. Watch this from BBC.
The massive illegal infiltration into Israel from Africa posed a real threat to Israel's future as a Jewish and democratic state. We stopped this threat by building the fence. There remains the problem of those who had already entered before the completion of the fence. These are tens of thousands of illegal infiltrators.
The wall going up. Benjamin ain't going to take that mess just because you're black and they're going to call him racist. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Build the wall. Remember when the Great White Hope tried to build the wall? And our government, including some Republicans, tried to stop him. And what happened when his term was up? They didn't complete the wall. Matter of fact, recently, according to the report, they have opened up other wall, portion of it, pretending they want animals to be able to cross in and out from one country to another or something dumb. Well, we need a wall. If ever we need a wall, we need it like right now. The CBS is reporting U.S. Border Patrol agents said they have noticed a spike in acts of violence from smuggling organizations attempting to cross into the United States. Watch this from CBS.
U.S. Border Patrol agents say they've noticed a spike in acts of violence from smuggling organizations attempting to cross into the U.S.
During one of the latest incidents, they say a group of people fired their guns at Border Patrol agents.
U.S. Border Patrol says these are dangerous and armed criminal groups who are trying to smuggle people in.
They actually received gunfire from the direction of that group.
A group of U.S. Border Patrol agents were targeted on August 18. They were patrolling the Otay Mountain Wilderness area in East County when they came across a smuggling group carrying guns. That's when the group opened fire before attempting to cross into the U.S.
The backup agents also reported gunfire and witnessed muzzle flashes.
Border Patrol agent Justin Castrojón says the agents were able to escape without injuries, while the criminal groups fled back to Mexico. But it's sparking concern for the level of violence they're recently encountering at the border.
We have seen an increase in acts of violence here along the San Diego sector.
Just last week, Border Patrol reported seeing a person armed climbing the border fence in the same area. A day later, 2 more people were seen in the area with rifles.
Amazing. So the next time someone ask, why do they leave the borders open and knowing all this is happening? Your reply should be because they want to. They want it that way. They don't have to have it that way. They want it that way. Our government want it that way. They want chaos and confusion so that they can receive perceived power and wealth. It's about that. It's all about the money. Follow the money trail. Yahoo is reporting 2 U.S. senators from California are asking the federal government to provide emergency funding to try and stop constant sewage flows that originate south of the border but end up on the U.S. side out into the Pacific Ocean, contaminating beaches and the coastline. Watch this compilation.
People gathered for a Stop the Sewage rally at a central beach in Coronado. Both the Coronado and Imperial Beach shorelines closed this weekend due to polluted waters. It's the 3rd holiday weekend that sewage contamination has kept people out of the water.
Just since Tropical Storm Hillary less than 2 weeks ago, more than 2.5 billion gallons of sewage contaminated water has flowed from Tijuana into South Bay waters here in San Diego. And just on Monday, some 20,000 gallons of raw sewage spilled onto the street from the Hollister Street pump station near the border.
Protesters chanted, holding signs that read, "Clean water is a human right," and "Stop the dump."
What do we want? Stop the sewage! When do we want it? Now!
For decades, cross-border sewage contamination from the Tijuana River has plagued the South Bay. One protester showing up in a hazmat suit to make her frustration loud and clear on just how much of a hazard this contamination is.
This is the crap, excuse the expression, that people are dealing with when they go in the water. It's impacting our health, our economy, our Navy SEALs, people who work around here, and we're sick of it.
Thought if it ever made it up here to where tourism is key, that something will get done, but still nothing.
We need President Biden and Governor Newsom to say enough is enough. We're going to come here. We're going to help you. We need emergency, immediate measures now. So pay attention.
Why the women lead the way? It ain't gonna get better. Devils fighting devils. That's all it is. The government can care less now. And I wonder how many of those people voted for the government that we have. How many voted for the government that we have? I do a lot of counseling, right? And so I've heard a lot of stories from men and women around the world. Some of the situations are different, but the cause of the situations are the same. The causes are the same. And the men and women, boys and girls, are being taught in the wrong way. They're not being taught about love, real love. They're not being taught how to treat one another. They're not being taught how to live a life. They are not being taught how to, if they should get married, how and why and how to deal with that. And it's nothing but hell now. It's nothing but hell. Rarely, very rarely, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. Can you find or run into or meet anyone that has perfect peace today? Remember when men knew that they were the salt of the earth and the light of the world? And so they led the way, not follow, but led, not follow. They would not follow a group. They were not doing those crazy things like that. They were individual thinkers. That's unheard of now. It's literally unheard of. And if you should mention it, most people are like, what are you talking about? I have to be a part of identify with a group. I have to have a bunch of friends. I have to have this and that. Otherwise, who will I be? They say. I am so grateful that I grew up in the time that I grew up. Otherwise, I wouldn't know the difference between then and now, and I'll be caught up with the crowd, acting like the crowd. You know, I would be probably still living at home with mama. There are grown adult men past 18 years of age living at home with mama. And mama, in most cases, not all, but most cases have convinced them, you stay home, baby, they say, and save your money. Save money so that you can go and get your place or whatever they say, right? And you end up staying home until you're over 60 years old. Once I was 60 years old, my mama told me, boy, you better get yourself a wife or you gonna be lonely. When I was growing up, exceptions to the rule, but at 18, you gotta go. We're teaching you to work. We're teaching you how to take care of yourself. They didn't even tell you gotta go to college. That was a dumb idea, college. It was to get a job. Your career is a job, and especially if you had a trade. They would teach us from whatever age we can work until 18 how to take care of ourselves, especially the boys, because they would go and prepare life in case they wanted to start a family. And the girls wasn't pushed as much to leave home because they were waiting for their husbands, and the husband would come and get them. That's gone now. It's so not in existence now that for this generation and the generation after this and after that to hear it, it sounds like a foreign language. What are you talking about, they say? According to Matthew 5, this is Bible Thumper Thursday. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. Where's the light? Where's the salt? There's no salt of the earth anymore. A few. Some are waking up and they're seeing it. There's no light in the world today, for the most part. Be honest with yourself, even if you don't say it out loud to anyone else, and you have a right not to. But be honest with yourself. Are you the light of the world, or are you the darkness of the world? Everyone who has anger, you are the darkness of the world. You're the darkness, and there is no light. Every day, I talk to men, young and old, of all races, that who does not know how to deal with women in a proper way. Women need you to deal with them in a proper way because you're the light of, supposed to be the light of the world, but even though you're the salt, you're blind and you're not the light, they look to you to be the light so they can follow. But because you're not the light, you're following them, following the darkness. And it's nothing but hell. Men are so miserable today because they're following a woman. So I want to give you some rules on how to deal with women in the proper way. We have a teacher within. You can write this down, pin it on the wall or somewhere. As Matthew 5 says, you are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. There's an order to life. God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and if there are children, woman over children, but it's coming from above, not from below. Love comes from above, not from below. And there's no love because the light and the salt is not in operation in most people. 99 point whatever people. I see dead people. So how to deal with women in the proper way? Number one, men, don't live at home past 18 years of age. Don't live at home past 18 years of age. Go out, get a job, and deal with the issues of life. And in dealing with the issues of life, you will grow into manhood. The Spirit of the Father will cause you to grow in the spirit of the light by dealing with the issues of life. When I left home at 18 from Alabama, I didn't know what was going to happen in life. I didn't know, I had no idea, but I knew how to work because I had been by example and working all my life, and I didn't see work as a bad thing at all, but I knew how to work. And I knew as long as I could work, I'll have food and a place to live. And sometimes it wasn't the best places because the jobs were like, they were not like paying buku money, but it provided, and I was quite satisfied with that. Not even thinking about it being a bad situation. Go and live your life. Get out from under mama's skirt tail, or you're going to be stuck there. Don't live at home after 18 years of age. Watch this from CNN and Fox. This is interesting.
How come you still live with your parents?
Rent is expensive.
And why do you think more young people like yourselves are staying at home longer?
They need to be able to save money to afford their own homes.
I think the reason why is, like, obviously it helps them save money.
Turns out a record number of young adults in the U.S. are still living at home. The U.S. Census Bureau shows nearly half of Gen Zers between the ages of 18 and 29 are still living with their parents. Numbers like this haven't been seen since the Great Depression in the 1940s.
I don't think it's just financial. I also think it's emotional. I think more young people, and that means young adults as well, up to 25, are feeling more emotionally fragile than ever before in history. One thing that I think is happening is that we're forcing kids to move very far away from us as a sign of success. We call it successful if they live far away when they're going to college and right after. And I think we need to redefine that, because I think some kids are capable of being independent in that way geographically, and then others need support for longer.
Why don't you just move out of your parents' house, like tomorrow?
I don't have the means to do that tomorrow.
Okay.
So,
do you have a job?
No.
Wow. Man, that's not natural. I never thought I would live to hear men say, I'm staying home to save money or apartment too expensive. It used to be the other way around where women would be thinking that way. And any parent that is allowing you to stay home at that age, they don't love you. They hate you. They don't love you at all. How will you ever grow if you're not out lifting the weights? The situations of life. That man, 30 years old, and doesn't have a job. That would not have happened in the good old days. A mother's love will kill you, your spirit. And don't let them convince you of that, guys. You're going to see if you're out working away from mama, away from home, you start dealing with life. It'll happen naturally. It's already in you to know how to deal with life. It's not going to happen under mama's skirt tail. And mama and the father who are weak in allowing this to happen, the fathers that are weak, they are destroying you. Life is more than just saving money. Life is living. It's living it. Life is like a full living life. You need a change of mind. Your mind has been put in a way where you're thinking like children, like a child, and not a grown-up. Your body is a grown-up body somewhat, but you're thinking like a child. 1 Corinthians 13:11 says, when I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. Living at home with mama. You're not a child. And don't let mama treat you like a child, because she is using you to get a fake sense of life, to feel good about herself, and she still doesn't feel good about, I'm mom. This is mom. This is my baby. You're a grown man. And don't be afraid to face and forgive your mothers or grandmothers or both. Watch this from Perfect Teeth. Amazing.
Growing up, my mom was always very stern in the way that she raised me. As I got older, I started to challenge her more and more. One specific time that I was swimming in the pool out back, and my little brother and I did not want to get out. So my mom comes outside, she's like, boys, it's time to get out. She's like fully clothed. Daniel and I look at each other and we're like, no, we don't want to get out. So she started counting. She was like, boys, I told you to get out. I was like, no. And she was like, okay, 1. 3 came, and in our heads, it was like we were in the pool and she didn't want to just get wet. So we thought we were golden. I underestimated my mom. When I tell you, this woman jumped in the water fully clothed as if she was a lioness and I was her prey. It was terrifying. She jumped in and pulled us out by our hair. That's like one of her proudest moments as a mom too. Like, she still talks about it to this day. After that, I stopped really messing around with her though. You know, I started to take her words a little bit more seriously. Like, if she's willing to get fully wet just for me to get out of the pool, like, who even knows what she's gonna do when I'm not in a pool?
Wow. What an evil woman, right? She changed that boy's spirit to her spirit by making him angry at her. And once you become angry, you become like what you hate. That's pretty sad, you see that. That destruction is coming through mama. You must forgive her. And when you forgive her, God will forgive you. That's an awful story. And I'm sure she feels all proud of herself. Oh, I did the right thing. She messed him up. You can see it in his spirit. This is why you need fathers in the home, so that when it's time to punish the child, it comes from the father, not the mother. The father would do it with perfect love, unless he has not overcome his mother's spirit. But the mother is not going to punish or discipline the child with perfect love. The love she has is hate, evil, and it would destroy the children, boys and girls. It would do that. It would change your spirit from the light to the darkness. But the way to overcome that, you got to forgive them Hey, mother, I'm sorry for resenting you. You were evil, but I understand you can help it. Face and forgive. 1 Corinthians 16:13 says, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. You got to be strong. And one of the ways of being strong amongst the many, stop spending your money on women. If you go out to dinner, you don't have to go and spend hundreds of dollars for a dinner. And if she doesn't like it, tell her bye. Okay, bye. Stop buying her clothes and trips and paying her rent and her apartment and houses and all. She hates you for that. And you hate yourself for doing it. Be watchful. Stand firm. Act like men. Be strong. So number 3, don't spend your money on females. Watch this from Bando's TV. Amazing.
I bring a check. I'm paying for my meal and your meal. I'm not paying for your kids' meal. No.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not paying for their kids' meal. No.
So you don't think you owe me after having me wait an hour and a half?
I told you I owe you. I owe you when I take you out
Okay,
again.
and so you're gonna pay for my kids' food?
No, I'm not doing that.
Can you please go ahead and
I'm not doing that. No. Hold up, beautiful. Hold up. Don't do that. But I said, why would I get her kids food? Why would I get her kids some food?
Because
they with their daddy.
She was right here.
They daddy should be feeding them.
She was waiting.
You say you ordered a steak for your son. How old is he?
He ate.
He ate eating steak. He eating the same thing I eat. Nah, hell no. Hell no. I'm straight. I'm cool. Don't put that on my bill.
Give him
Don't put that on me.
Make sure you put a side of A1 sauce as well. He
Yo,
paying for all of this today.
I'm not paying for all that. No, I'm not paying for all that.
Yes, you are.
She's trying to put a bill on me and to make my kids. I'm late to the date. She's trying to make me get some food for her and her kids.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that?
You late.
It's my first date. I ain't even met the kids yet.
You late.
I'm late. I gotta buy them steak. She said steak and 2 chicken tenders.
What's wrong with that?
Come on, y'all. Y'all ain't on my side. Ain't nobody on my side, man.
Wow. The moment that she started giving him attitude like that and telling him that, I would have said, you know what? I'm not paying for yours either. Bye. I'll pay for my meal and out. Go up front, pay for your meal, and be gone. You shouldn't let women talk to you like that. They're talking down on you. And they have no respect for you at all. How you going to tell a man to pay for somebody else's child meal? This is why you shouldn't be dating women who already have children or marrying them. It's nothing but trouble. Speak up to women. Be honest, but not angry. Speak up to women. Be honest, but not angry. And don't tell women your problems. Don't tell women your problem. They can't handle it. It's not in them. Do not move into her apartment, house, town, state, and don't have sex with them out of wedlock. 1 Corinthians 7:2 says, each man should have sexual relationship with his own wife, and each woman with her own husband. Each woman with her own husband. These things were talked about when we were growing up. They were being discussed, and then they were being lived for the most part. You don't see them anymore. You don't hear about them anymore. You don't see them, so the men and women are growing up dumb. Get a trade. Don't let them tell you, oh, you need to go to college. No, you don't. You need a job. There's so much you can do if you had a trade, a job. As long as you can work with your hands, you'll have food on your table. And don't compare yourself to someone else thinking, oh, I need to make a whole lot of money right away. No, you don't. Proverbs 22:29 says, do you see the man skillful in his work? Do you see the man skillful in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before obscure men. Do you see the man skillful in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before obscure men. Get out there and have a life, guys, and deal with the issues of life. You'll look back and you'll be grateful. You will not believe what you have dealt with and were able to overcome because you became the light of the world, salt of the earth. You are of love. And God say, for God's sake, don't sit in the passenger seat while the woman is driving. Even if it's her car, just say, you know what, I'll drive. I would have to think really, really hard to think about when I was growing up, when I ever saw men sitting in the woman's seat and the woman was driving. I've seen women drive, but the men were not in the car. What the? Man, I see it all the time now. The woman is driving and the man is sitting in the woman's seat, the passenger seat. And it seemed comfortable. And it's just weird. I want to yell beta from the car, my car. Don't sit in the passenger seat. Beta! Beta! Beta bell! While the woman is driving. Watch this from NBC.
Her actions were controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. This was not reckless driving. This was murder.
19-year-old Mackenzie Sharilla crying uncontrollably as the judge declared her guilty on multiple counts of murder in the deaths of her 20-year-old boyfriend Dominic Russo and his 19-year-old friend Davion Flanagan. She was convicted on all 12 charges she was facing, including those of felonious assault and aggravated vehicular homicide. The judge said Sharilla, who was 17 at the time of the crash, had morphed from a responsible driver with 2 passengers into, quote, literal hell on wheels down an obscure route that she had just visited a few days before, pushing the pedal to the floor, demanding an ultimate speed of 100 miles per hour.
The intent was obvious upon seeing that video that there was only one goal, and the computer demonstrated that there was no attempt to slow down or stop, that it was full speed into a building, and tragically it cost 2 people their lives.
The prosecution says Sharilla crashed the car in July 2022 to end her toxic and tumultuous relationship with Russo, and that Flanagan was just backseat cargo.
Amazing. You drive, man. Men, it's okay. It's okay to be a man. Women need you to drive. They hate weak men. You see what happened? That's just one example. So those are the 7 rules of how to deal with a woman in the proper way. And they will work if you do them. And these rules were lived and taught when I was growing up. My generation, for the most part. Exceptions to the rule. The world is going to hell in a handbasket because the men are weak. We got to turn the world back over to normal. God in Christ, Christ over man, man over woman. Nothing else is going to work but that. Even if you are not married, men are over women in the right way. How can a dog be an amazing dog? All the thing that a dog does is what you tell it to do. It doesn't cut wood. It doesn't go to work. It reminded me of yesterday when you said you imagine you were holding your dog, and while holding your dog, you imagine for a moment your dog getting old and dying, and you have to take it to the vet so that they can kill it, right?
Yeah.
Put that stuff in and kill it, and you start crying. You got to know you're in a fallen state when you cry over the dog.
Yeah, you do. You do. You got to know it.
But
it doesn't change it.
Oh, God, what is old world coming to? human beings, not all, have truly connected to the animals, huh?
What the?
And now the animals rule the human beings. Things just ain't the same. Anytime the hunter get captured by the gang. What the? He's sitting there crying, boo-hooing over a dog. I thought mama had died. Anyway, I want my country back. It's not coming back. I wish I could say it was. I don't know if I wish I could say it was. But it'd be nice to say it was coming back. And not. It can't if you're crying over a dog. Especially a male, crying over a dog. Who let the dogs out? Ooh. How you feel when you saw that right now?
Man, maybe it made me think about that thought I had. Took me right back to that sad possibility.
What's your dog name?
Mr. Sandman.
It took you back to the sad possibility Mr. Sandman may die too?
Yeah. It really did. But I am aware of it. But it is sad.
Whoa. Well, okay.
Good news is that he's sleeping in his own bed nowadays.
Oh, he grew up a little bit.
Yeah, now he's a teenager, so he wanna get away.
And where did he get the bed from?
Well, actually, I call it kind of his hotel villa. It's kind of like this. It's really my seat that I sit on to work on music stuff.
Right.
But he likes to, because it's like fluffy, so it looks like him.
So he sleep on it, then you sit on it?
Yeah. But we're progressive. At least he's out of the bed.
Evidently. What a mess. I have said, and I'm telling you the truth and nothing else but the truth, so help me. If you want to be free, and you can be free, it's totally up to you. If you want to be free, and you can be free, it's totally up to you. You must overcome words. All who are affected by words are in a fallen state. That's why you're attracted to the dogs and the cats and everything. You're in a fallen state. But if you want to be free, you must overcome words, because forever and a day, you will be controlled and manipulated and deceived by words. You can't help it. Well, apparently, it seems that the ADL is doing the same thing, using words. They are manipulating you with words in the same way that human beings do it to one another in your little private lives. It is a spiritual battle, and you use words. Even God wants to encourage you to overcome words. And then another thing before I play this, stop using the language of the children of the devil, the children of the lie. They say that there's racism. Don't you say that, because it's not true. You say it's spiritual when you truly see it's a spiritual battle. It's not racism. It's spiritual. It's not blacks against whites and whites against blacks and Mexicans against blacks. It's evil against good. Don't use the same language that they're using, otherwise you're going to stay in the same hell that they're in. So some of you may be aware of the ADL, and this is what the ADL does according to the official ADL website. ADL.org, Anti-Defamation League. Doesn't that sound beautiful and helpful? But it has no meaning. It's just words put together to manipulate the mind and emotions. Anti-Defamation League means nothing. It means nothing. But if you're not in control of you, if you're not an individual, but a groupie, you won't understand that. You'll read it like the blacks read about racism. It has no meaning. It means nothing. But they fall for it, and then fundraising happens. But anyway, Anti-Defamation League fight all forms of anti-Semitism, no such word, and biases. A global leader in combating anti-Semitism, countering extremism, and battering bigotry wherever and whenever it happens. ADL works to protect democracy and ensure a just and inclusive society for all. None of that makes sense. It just made up words that sound so emotional and helpful and useful when it's really not. It's empty words. But that's what they say on ADL.org. In reality, according to Breitbart, the ADL is actually a partisan, far-left outfit that regularly smears conservatives. Some of you might remember this. This is from Breitbart. The ADL changed its definition of racism back in 2020 to exclude white people. Remember all those beautiful words that they wrote that I read to you in a black kind of a way? ADL.org. ADL worked to protect democracy and ensure a just and inclusive society for all. For all, they say. And then according to Breitbart, on the other hand, they go, the ADL changed its definition of racism in 2020 to exclude white people. What happened to the all? What about inclusive for all? But they changed it to exclude white people, according to the Breitbart. It implies that a racial hierarchy that left white people at a disadvantage would not be racist. Everybody and their mama are against white people. Why? Do you ever ask yourself, why is everyone against the white people? How come white people are so brilliant that everyone is jealous and against them? We have a photo here and
racism, the marginalization and or oppression of people of color based on a socially constructed racial hierarchy that privileges white people.
Just words, just speeches. Words with no meaning. But if you're blind, if you're lost in your imagination, it'll mean a lot to you. But it has no meaning. It's just made up words. And white people, y'all have more power than you know. Even the ADL is implying that you are holding back the blacks. You're against the blacks. Talk about control and brainwashing. Watch this from Wikipedia. The Great Replacement Theory. This is kind of new to me, all these different millennial words, right? I'm black, I'm slow. My generation does not know about the Great Replacement Theory. I think these are new words. According to Wikipedia, the Great Replacement Theory, a white nationalist, far-right conspiracy theory, states that the ethnic white European population are being demographically and culturally replaced with non-white people through mass migration, demographic growth, and a drop in the birth rate of white Europeans. Well, according to the ADL, deplatformed Tucker Carlson and the Great Replacement Theory. We call on technology companies to enforce their hate speech policies against the Great Replacement Theory and white supremacy more broadly. Go after the whites. Apparently, I've been talking about the Great Replacement Theory all along. I didn't know it. Am I right about that?
Yeah, anytime you talk about how whites are going to become the minority in America, and how potentially, allegedly, it's a purposeful action by certain people, that's what they will call the Great Replacement theory. And according to Wikipedia, they'll call it a far-right conspiracy theory, a white nationalist conspiracy theory. They'll use all other words for it.
Wow.
But that's the term they use for that, is great replacement theory.
Talk about being slow, black
Right.
and slow. And hey, you said that replacement theory meant that it's not real.
Right, it's a conspiracy theory.
Meaning
If you're
that-
saying that whites are becoming a minority and that's planned,
right,
by whoever,
in their own country,
in
the white people own land.
Yep. Then that's a conspiracy theory.
But
That's
how-
why they wanted to get rid of Tucker Carlson for saying that whites are being replaced.
So is it true that white women are starting to abort babies and having fewer kids?
Yeah, and they're getting
Either
into
aborting
education.
or having fewer kids now, right?
Right.
And getting into education, as you said. Is that a theory or is that reality?
That's reality.
So I ain't theorizing then.
Well, that's the whole point,
And
is that they come up with this term and they call it a theory in order to cover it up, allegedly.
And then the immigration and the immigrants having all these babies and all the anchor babies. So those things are
Is that a
reality.
theory?
No, those are not theories. That's reality.
So
That's
I ain't
happening.
theorizing.
But it is because you're repeating. You're saying the same thing that the white supremacists say.
I've been saying that for 30-some years.
So have the white supremacists.
And I ain't even know no white supremacists.
The replacement theory conspiracy a lot of times is that they're replacing Christians in positions of power of things. So like pre this time period, when like what I'm saying about Henry Ford and Disney, there was laws in Hollywood that were based kind of even on the Bible, that you couldn't do certain things in movies.
Right.
You couldn't have certain, sexual nudity. There was a lot of things that were like based in, kind of Christian stuff. And so the replacement theory is also saying that like that certain people came over and threw away all these threw away these rules and changed things. So, and kind of brought in degeneracy and stuff like that. So even with white women having abortions and stuff like this, the conspiracy would be that that was influenced by non-Christians to influence these things.
But how can we call it a conspiracy theory when we're looking at it actually happening? It's not like I'm reading about it. It's not like I'm hearing about it. I'm seeing it happen. For example, as Hate mentioned, illegal alien coming from everywhere, and they're dropping these babies like 90 going north in our country.
Yep.
While the white population of births are going down.
Yep. And Biden said that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
It's
that's
a source
happening.
of our strength.
Yep.
But how come we're getting weaker then?
Yeah, and the whole calling it, that's the whole controlled by words, brainwashing aspect of it. They'll call it a theory. They'll call it a white nationalist, far right conspiracy theory.
If you say a true thing that whites say, then you shouldn't be saying it.
But I've been saying it forever, and I ain't know about no white theory.
The most amazing part of the story is the next part, because when they talk about Israel.
Oh, for some reason this doesn't apply to Israel, or that other stuff about getting rid of Tucker Carlson, the Great Replacement Theory doesn't apply to Israel. And I love Israel. I've been there before. If I was God, one of the requirements, if you want to go to heaven, you have to visit Israel first on earth.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you ain't getting into heaven.
Yeah, most of the Christians were raised to support Israel. At least seems like that in my generation
The
and
blacks
older.
and the whites and everybody were raised to love Israel. Because if it wasn't for Judaism, there would be no Christianity. Christ was a Jew, but he ushered in Christianity. He's like, oh, Lord, let me go get these folks.
But some of the Christians were raised to be leery of how they
Not
came
in
about.
my days.
Not around me either, but
That
I
ain't
see it.
true. That just came about too lately.
No, I think the Catholics always had a problem with
Well,
them.
that's because the Pope was sick.
And then there's some like normal.
He was supposed to be the last Jew, though.
Who, the Pope?
Jesus.
Because you know how Israel is just
What?
You know how Israel's a year older than you.
Yeah, Yeah, you know I'm old. I'm as old as Israel.
See, so I think some of the older Christians may not have been fans of this
God
World War II
Israel, and then he made me. So what?
So some of these older Christians, there's like a contingent of older Christians and whites coming to this day who didn't like how the World War II panned out.
See, all that don't make sense to me. But let me do this because
somebody will have to explain it to you.
Yeah, that's mess. For some reason, these ADL rules does not apply to Israel. This is from Informational Liberation. In a guide for pro-Israel activists on their website, the ADL says that the idea of Jews and Palestinians sharing one state in Israel is unworkable, given current realities and historic animosities. This is from ADL.org. And Hassan, you have that?
Yes, sir. Furthermore, binationalism is unworkable given current realities and historic animosities. With historically high birth rate among the Palestinians and a possible influx of Palestinian refugees and their descendants now living around the world, Jews would quickly be a minority within a binational state, thus likely ending any semblance of equal representation and protections. In this situation, the Jewish population would be increasingly politically and potentially physically vulnerable. It is unrealistic and unacceptable to expect the state of Israel to voluntarily subvert its own sovereign existence and nationalist identity and become a vulnerable minority within what was once its own territory.
Sean, that's too much for me to understand.
Yeah.
Because the day that they were teaching English like that, I was at the Copfield. Break that down for me.
Okay, I'll break it down very simply. They're saying about Israel what you've been saying about America for 30 plus years in bigger words.
So that's happening in Israel. They're trying to get rid of the Jews of Israel like they are in America with the white man.
Right, but in Israel they don't call it the great replacement theory. They think that's completely, normal.
I would never call it a theory either. It was normal. It was happening here. It happened here in my country.
Right. But they, as far as words go, they use all the big words. And
so they don't believe what's good for the goose is good for the gander? They don't think we should have the same thing?
Yeah, apparently not.
That's me in the beautiful land of Israel.
Wow.
Looking over the slaves in the fields? Is that your plot of land?
I'm going to own that one day. But anyway, amazing, huh?
Would you recommend people go to Israel today? Like, still today? Is it still okay to go?
If they could get a flight.
Yeah.
Because they're safer over there than in America. Because the one thing that the Jews do for one another, they protect. They have military everywhere.
Yeah.
There's nowhere. See, that's me sitting in one of their little military trucks.
Wow.
In Francisco.
Wow.
What is that, AK?
That's right. See, I can't hardly get over there. They gave me a gun. They knew I was one of them.
Or some other type of rifle.
Look at that. They armed Francisco up.
He's so young looking.
Right.
But anyway, and so the same kind of spirit that's happening over there, where the Palestinians hate the Jews and they want to just destroy, same thing happened in America where the blacks now hate the whites and they want to destroy.
And the ADL too.
Apparently, I'm about to say, apparently from this, it seems that the ADL does too.
Yeah. And, for the record, I have nothing against Jews. I love the Jews. I had plenty of Jewish friends growing up. I probably went to more, bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs and temple than I went to church. But
being from New York area?
Yeah. Yeah, lots of good Jewish friends I had.
Here, but I loved the Jews before I knew that you're not supposed to love them. I grew up that way. Really, black and Jews got along. because of this religious connection we have. Now they don't want you to say Christianity came from the Jews. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it is.
But it's not true, folks. Christ, if it wasn't for Christ, there would be no Christianity. Really. And that's one of the reasons the Christians and Jews got along so well. And it wasn't about the color thing, it was spiritual. In recent news, here's Jonathan Greenblatt. He is the CEO and National Director of the ADL. Watch this from MSNBC.
Look, the ADL has been tracking hate, for over 100 years, and now we see social media has really become the super spreader of hate and harassment. More than 52% of Americans report receiving abuse, being harassed on these platforms. I mean, that's over half of their adult users.
But let's just define hate. When you talk about hate, I imagine there are folks who, if they were filling out a survey, would say they feel like they've received hate online. But that kind of hate is different, I think, than some of the true hate and hate crimes, effectively, that take place on social media. So how do you differentiate between that?
Well, look, we've certainly seen where rhetoric online creates real-world consequences offline, Andrew, right? So we've seen a connection. Caravan, open borders. These are literally white supremacist phrases that have worked their way through the system and somehow landed in the talking points coming out of the West Wing. We work with Google on using AI to try to interrupt cyber hate before it happens. We work with YouTube to get them to change their algorithms. We work with Facebook on...
Where does Facebook land?
Facebook gets a C-. X, Twitter, gets a C-. Discord, which is really just a rancid place, gets a D. And again, Snap gets an F. But Twitch did well. YouTube scored a C. So there's a range.
Whoa. He used all those fancy words and just lying.
Right. Crazy.
Because anyone that has anger is a hater. That's why God said, don't trust an angry person. Anyone that has anger is a murderer. What the?
Yep.
One of the chief haters playing Mama, trying to stop other people from hating. Certain types of hating.
I don't even think they really tried to stop it. They were doing it to make money.
Spreading it, really.
Yeah. By encouraging people. People stop being angry at one another. It's a spiritual battle. And ain't all this outside mess that you've been told. I promise you that.